Hey Trevor, how you doing? I decided to do a video response to your email. You know me, I don't like typing. This makes it easier. I have all my stuff laid out in front of you. I can just kind of read it off to you and have your answer in a way that is different from how we normally do this. So I'm going to start off by, as I always do, I read your email and I kind of hit all the points as I go, and then I'll overflow into other forms of information here that I have listed out. It says, so we're a few days away from the draft, and I figured try to see what you're thinking. Initial thought when it comes to round one is that we're going to be very, very difficult for the team to mess up pick 19. I agree with that. The overlying thing for me about this draft is, for the first time in a long time, I do not feel desperate with this pick. I feel we're in a good place. I feel like we ended the season in a good place. I feel like we had a great off season. And although there are pieces we need, the pieces that we need are not first round pieces. Things like the safety, for example. For me, my top need is a safety. I'd like to also get cornerback depth. Again, this isn't necessarily something that needs to be addressed in the draft. This could be something, the cornerback depth could be done in free agency. But those are needs. Those are my desperate needs. And unless we're picking at number 2 and we're getting Jamal Adams, there's no real reason to be picking a safety in the first round. So because of that, I don't feel like we should be addressing our dire needs in the first round. And thus, your statement there, it's hard to mess it up, because anything that you're going to be picking in the first round will be top of the line role piece, usable from day one, but you get a defensive lineman, he's a piece of that puzzle. He's not going to be like Myles Garrett will be for the Browns. He's not going to be the takeover player that we need. He's going to be a piece of that puzzle. So I definitely agree with that assessment, as it's going to be hard to mess it up. They take a player, and it may not be the player I want or you want, but I don't think any of the players they pick there are ones where like, oh shit, our whole draft is screwed up. So I like that, the thought process there. I feel like reading your email, we are on the same page on a lot of it. There are little pieces obviously that are different, and then I think there's one or two major things that we're completely on separate about, as always is going to be. But you say, with the exception of running back, there's no glaring holes in the team when it comes to starters. That's exactly what I was just saying. We need quality depth just about everywhere, and an argument can be made for upgraded starters at certain positions like safety, center, right tackle. Pretty much just what came out of my mouth. All positions that don't typically need to be addressed in round one. That being said, I could imagine about a dozen different players who could be at 19 that I wouldn't be too upset about if we got. I may favor some players in a position over another, but won't be upset with just about any of these. Completely agree. Everything on your list is, and we'll go over the list, is completely, if it happens, I'm going to be like, didn't really want that, but all right, let's go get a jersey. It's not like in the case of when you draft Mark Barron and I want Luke Kuechly, and I'm just like, fuck you, Bucks. It's more of a case of, well, I would have went a different route, but this guy's a Buck now. Let's get behind him. I don't have a problem with any of the names on your list. So, looking at your list, okay, I do have a problem with some of the names on your list, but again, I'm going to back them even if you pick them. You say running back, Cook, McCaffrey. I'm going to skip over this part. Running back is the major part of my discussion topic here. Once we get past your email, so we'll get back to that. As far as tight end, Howard or Njoku, I don't know if that's the proper way to pronounce it. I've never really learned. I would absolutely die if we could get Howard. That would be phenomenal. I think that would be great. I do not think that's a possibility at 19. He should be long gone by then. If that's the case, I'm not sure I want to go with Njoku, but I would not be upset. I'm a big fan of tight end. I've been wanting to hit a tight end since Kellen Winslow. It seems to be what we keep missing. What's his face is looking great. Cameron Braid is looking really good for us right now, but he's still just he's not he's not Rob Gronkowski, and I think Howard is Rob Gronkowski. I don't think Njoku is. So I really would like Howard, but I don't see him falling to us. I think Njoku's more of an option, but if that's the option, I think there are better options. But again, I would be happy if that's the case. The fact that they want to incorporate the tight end is a big piece of the puzzle, so that's great. As far as the wide receivers go, you've nailed the 3 wide receivers: William, Davis, Ross. Most mock drafts I see have all 3 of them going before us. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that, yeah. Okay, I'll be out in a little bit. I believe that 1 or 2 of them will be available. I believe 1 of them. I don't know which one, but I believe 1 of them will be available at the time of our draft. I don't see 3 wide receivers going before us. It's hard to say that one team covets one over the other. They're all different styles. So depending on what 2 teams decide to pick determines which one of the 3 falls to us. I think my order is a little different from yours. I think we both agree that Davis is the pick if we could get him. If things go the right way, we get Davis. I really like him. I like his style. You have your second seems to be you want Williams because he's an Evans clone. I've already seen the Evans clone thing. When we drafted Evans, I've told you that I didn't want Evans twice, and we got Evans and Jackson on both sides. And not that was horrible, but I said at the time, yeah, we'd be better off drafting someone like Odell Beckham Jr. He's got a lot more speed, deep threat option. I'd like to go that route. Looking back, Evans works. But just makes me wonder what happens if we had Vincent Jackson and Odell Beckham Jr. instead. I would rather have someone stretch the field. Humphreys is a good hands guy. That's nice. And Deshaun Jackson's going to stretch the field for us now, so we don't need that stretch the field guy. But how long do we have Deshaun Jackson? I'd like a Deshaun Jackson clone more than I'd like an Evans clone. And that is why I would rather go Ross than Williams. You say here a little further down, Ross's durability issues are a concern, but you'd be okay to add the rest of speed. I'd be more than okay if I was going with this first rounder could be a throwaway pick and gamble. I almost want Ross more than anyone else. I can think of one person. Now, anyone else who's available to us. Davis isn't going to be available to us. Leonard Fournette is not going to be available to us. Jamal Adams is not going to be available to us. You didn't even put those people down because they're not options at our pick. Well, some of them you did, but they're not. Davis is probably not going to be an option at our pick. Barnett, you put his name down, but I do not see him. Being available at 19. If Barnett's there, I am over the moon for Barnett. I love Barnett. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the draft, but he's not going to be available to us at 19. So I do think that of the guys that are potentially available to us, I want us to go Ross. I like the speed, and I want to take that gamble. And if he doesn't pan out, I don't think it hurts us all that much. So that's where I go with that. It's also nice. A nice piece of that puzzle is with Ross. He has been mentored by Deshaun Jackson. That's his mentor. That's where he's been learning. And the fact that his mentor is on the team and he could theoretically play behind Jackson while learning. He's not as polished as Williams or Davis, but to have that guy who is arguably the fastest guy to ever play the game of football on our team across from Evans, learning from Deshaun Jackson, taking over for Jackson in a year or two, being essentially a handcuff in case Jackson gets injured because he's getting up there in age. I just like the piece of the puzzle of Moss better than anyone else who I think will actually be available to us at the time. As far as the defensive linemen, you mentioned the two defensive linemen you liked was the guy out of Tennessee, which is Barnett, and the guy out of Missouri, which I keep forgetting his name. That's why I have the book here. I'm trying to have Charles Harris. I don't know much about Harris. I'll have to look into that before tomorrow. I do see him right around in the mock drafts, right around our pick. So I'm neither. Again, I'm not going to get upset about that, but I feel like if we're picking Harris, there's probably a better option for us, and I'd even probably rather just trade out of the first round if that was an option for us. Adoree Jackson, I don't want to go cornerback in the first round, but I guess, again, I don't know. Back-to-back cornerbacks going to Hargreaves last year and then Dave Jackson this year. He might be worth it, but I think that would be the one pick that would put a little sour in my mouth. Jabril Peppers, you listed there. I would be very happy with Jabril Peppers. I think it might be a little bit of a stretch if we take Peppers there, but the fact that we've never had a kick returner as a Buck ever, and he could be used in that way as a kick returner would be nice. I think he's got a lot of upside to him in the same way McCaffrey does as a running back, but definitely in a way that is more useful to us, I think, especially if it can be turned into a top-notch safety. I see that he has the potential. People say that he doesn't have the potential to be a pro safety. I've heard that. I see that he has the potential to be at least Chris Conte, which is what we've got right now. So you know how much I dislike Conte. I'd love to go Peppers there, assuming that the real players are off the board. You say, I don't expect all these players to be available. It's very difficult to see how this draft plays out. Exactly, I agree the same way. Most of them will not be. Some of them will not be available. The ones that I expect to not be available are Barnett, McCaffrey, Howard, the rest, and Davis. The rest of them very well could be available when it comes to us. And I've told you pretty much what I think. You said your top choice would be Davis. I think if it's laid out for me and all of them are there, and it's the ones that you have listed, my top choice is Howard. But Davis is a close second, with Barnett being a close third, which is weird for me, I know, because you know that I would much rather the wide receiver type. I'd rather the playmaker than the defensive lineman, especially with our defensive line starting to really show. If we were to pick someone like Barnett, how often would he get in his rookie season? He'd get in, but would he even really be a starter day one? I'm not sure. But I really, really like Barnett, and I almost think I'd rather Barnett than Davis. No. Maybe. With us signing Jackson, I might like Barnett better than Davis, but I'll see how that goes. Then we go on. You say, I like Dalvin Cook as well as the best all-around back in the draft, but I think there's much more than a significant drop in the draft going from third wide receiver to fourth wide receiver than going third running back and fourth running back. I 100% agree with this. Every mock draft is all over the board, and no one has us picking the same person every time, but the consensus, the most common pick for us is Dalvin Cook, and I do not like it. First of all, I do not understand. I like the fact, and this is kind of piecing into my other stuff. I like the fact that that we re-signed Jacquizz Rodgers. That's great. Right now we've got Martin, Rodgers, and Sims on the roster. Drafting Dalvin Cook pretty much shows that we're going to let the Martin thing go. I kind of want the Martin thing to be done before the draft. I even wrote here, I was like, please, Bucks, explain to me what's going on. I have no clue what's going on with the Martin thing. Are they going to go with Martin? If so, do not use your first round pick on Dalvin Cook. If you're not going to go with Martin, then that's fine, you using the running back. But even then, I'm not sold on Cook. Everyone really likes Cook. Everyone really likes McCaffrey. For me, it's Fournette or bust. At that point, I'd rather go get something here and get a running back in the second or third round. I feel like back when we picked Martin, I wrote you an email then that said we could trade back up in the first round and get Martin, but I would rather just sit on it and pick Lamar Miller in the third round. And now, hindsight being 2020, we would have been much better off with Lamar Miller, it looks like. I feel the same way about Cook. I don't think that he is the guy that everyone thinks he is. I think that he can be a solid back at points, almost like Warwick Dunn. Not to say that he's anything, that I'm comparing him to Warwick Dunn just because he's from the Seminoles. But Warwick Dunn had a season here and there that we were like, wow, this guy's a real back. And then other times he was like, okay, he's a piece of the puzzle, but he's not the guy. If you're spending a first pick on a back, he better be the guy. And I don't think Cook is the guy. So I don't want to pick Cook here. I definitely don't want to pick McCaffrey if he's available. I do not buy into McCaffrey. McCaffrey, I saw a thing on ESPN. I really wish I had saved it. I wish I had DVR'd it because I could not find someone writing it, but like an article form of it. But they had showed McCaffrey and his weight, and I think he weighs 202 pounds. And I don't know exactly what they were saying, but they were saying, here's a list of running backs that were, I don't know, drafted in the first round that weighed 200 pounds or less, or something like that. It was a comparison to the other running backs that were drafted similar to McCaffrey. And there was a list of like 7 or 8 of them, and I wish I could remember them all, but I can't. But it was Javid Best, C.J. Spiller, Chris Johnson. And now Chris Johnson obviously turned into something, but even Chris Johnson was considered a bust until he had his 2,000-yard season, and then kind of disappeared again until he showed back up, and he was so roller coaster. You can consider Chris Johnson a good running back, but in the same way you can consider Doug Martin a good running back. But if you look at that list, it was a list of has-beens, never-wases, and just role players, pieces of the puzzle. If McCaffrey comes in, he's going to become a third-round back, a third down back, a slot option catcher. He's not going to be an all full first-round running back. I don't see it. I don't see it from anything I've seen from him. And everything I'm reading and everything I'm watching makes it me believe that everyone thinks when it's all said and done, he is going to be the guy from this draft. And I don't get it. I do not want McCaffrey. I do not see a role on our team for McCaffrey. And in the same way, I think Cook doesn't fit what we want, as at least from a first-round guy. From there, you say, as far as defense is concerned, if that's where we go, I'd probably be okay with that too. Absolutely. If we're not going to go with a skill guy, if we're not going to go with the right skill guy, like one of the 3 wide receivers, because I'd take Williams if that's the case. But if we're not going to go with one of the 3 wide receivers and Howard is not available, I would much rather go with Jackson or Baker or Peppers or even Charles Harris, which I don't know, than to go for one of the running backs or go for Njoku, something like that. So I agree with that assessment. And that's what you wrote. Everything else was about us getting together. Now let me... I like, as far as the free agency goes, I love Baker. I love bringing in Baker. I think that is great. I love that we brought in J.J. Wilcox from a safety perspective. That takes a little bit of pressure on the safety position for us, but I still think we need a real safety. I would love to pair Wilcox with... And the thing is, Wilcox is a free safety, and Peppers, I don't know what he traditionally is considered, but I think that he's versatile enough that let's see if it says here. I don't think it doesn't say it, but I think he's versatile enough that you could put him on the strong side and do something with that. I think from what I understand, just from the thought process, I think that Jabril would theoretically be a free safety as well, but I don't know. We brought in Hawley. We brought back Hawley. Which is good from a center position, but I'd love an upgrade there. And then we brought in other pieces of the Ponte, bringing Conti back, bringing Robinson back, bringing Rogers back. All good stuff, but I think that Baker, Wilcox, and Jackson, bringing those 3 guys in, really, to me, that's the draft. We did it. We got our offseason. Everything else is just a piece of the puzzle, and I'm okay with that. I wouldn't have minded if we had brought in Peterson, especially considering they paid him $7 million over 2 years. If we had gotten rid of Martin, that would have saved us. And I didn't look into this whole situation, but we paid him a lot of money. And my understanding is we can get out from under that money because of the drug situation. Let him go. Let him be something else. Bring in Peterson. Pay him $7 million for 2 years. Don't re-sign Jacquizz Rodgers. Let Sims be his backup. Let draft a running back in the 2nd or 3rd round who's the 4th or 5th best running back. Let him learn behind Peterson. Let Sims and the rookie spell Peterson. I think that would have been a much better play on this whole situation. Instead, we get to face Peterson twice a year as a Saint. That does not make me happy. So I would have liked to do that. Aside from that, I think I've said everything I've written down. Yeah, don't want McCaffrey. I got all that information. Yeah, I think everything I've got written down here has been displayed, has been told to you. So that's where I stand. We are similar in a lot of the aspects of this this draft. I agree with most of the stuff you say, There are little tweaks like the Cook stuff and the McCaffrey I'd like to get out from under, but even if they were to draft those guys, I'd be on board with. I don't think they can mess it up. I'm really looking forward to this year. I like our schedule. You know me, I tend to give us losses on the games that we're kind of headlock even on. And even with giving us losses, I see us as 9-7, 8-8, 9-7. So that is really, really good. Good look going into the season. We really have a chance to push and go for the playoffs here. I don't like what Carolina has been doing. I think they take a step backwards this year, which means that's good for us. I'm not sure I like what the Saints have been doing. I don't think they take a step back, but I don't think it's enough to catch up to us, which kind of puts us in a fight for first place with the Falcons. And historically speaking, our division, the first place team in our division ends up in first place the next year. In fact, it's only, I think, happened once in the past 10 to 15 years where, in fact, since our division has been, only once has a team repeated as our division leader. So it's kind of looking good for us this year. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll get together. I will talk to you again. And as far as what we texted about today, trading out of the first round, for me it goes Howard if he's there, which is really highly unlikely. Barnett if he's there, and Evans, those three, and then trade out. I will trade out. If trading out gets us an extra first round pick next year, trade out at that point. If one of those three guys are there, then I'd rather take the pick at this point. But anyway, you guys, you have a good day. I will text you soon. And like I said, tomorrow, Friday and Saturday, all three of the draft days, I will be streaming every moment of every pick of the draft with the chat. Come on in, say hi. If you want, I'll put you up on a Skype call or something like that, or take your phone call. You're special, so we'll get you in the stream that way if you'd like. Take care. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.